and Polynesians. Well, what do you expect after you tanked everybody up and then 10 o'clock closing time, you just let them out?
In most cases, the offenders are Polynesians, but the areas in which we operate are mainly Polynesian areas.
There isn't any reason at all for them to be there. It's just the fact that them appearing like that and the reputation that they have creates trouble then and there.
As a result of the task force, a large number of Polynesians were arrested, but there was no reliable access to legal advice, and so the Panthers started their own legal aid program.
Some of the Panthers go down to the courts and they ask anybody down there, mostly the Polynesians and the working class people down there, if they have a lawyer. We tell them it's their legal right to get a lawyer, and that the government pays for the lawyer.
The Panthers were having a social at the university, and for some reason the police turned up and they just started arresting people en masse. And there was a crew from Grey Lynn who I really wanted to protect and prevent from being arrested. They ended up just being thrown in the van along with everyone else. So I got myself nominated as the legal aid and went straight to the Grey Lynn and Ponsonby guys and said, look, you're here because of blah, 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 and it's got nothing to do with anything you did. And I'm going to talk to each of your parents about this. So I did. I rang from the police station to each of their parents and said, look, your son has been arrested for nothing. And I want you to come down here and see for yourself. Because there was at the time nothing on the charge books. And even the inspector in charge of that shift wanted to know, why isn't there anything on the charge book? You just have holding these people illegally. And so some of the parents, when I'd rung them, this was quite early in the morning, they were, first of all, the initial shock that their son was involved in this kind of thing. And when they came and saw for themselves, you know, that these things actually do happen, that authority does make mistakes, and they're not always right. That's when I think, at least for those parents, something changed for them.
The Panthers weren't lawyers, but they recognised injustice when they saw it, and they knew knowledge was power. They developed and distributed resources to educate their communities. One of their most successful publications was this legal aid book, written with the help of a young lawyer by the name of David Longy.
One does not like to see people rather helpless in the face of a system they don't understand. But we definitely need a system where a defendant knows that he can have legal representation.
How was your relationship with David, like, given, you know, that he had...
David Longy?
Yeah, and he
David Longy saved my life, Nevak. It goes like this. One night I'm out with my friends and we're drinking, and one of my friends happens to be a Māori who's good at stealing cars. So he said, I'll save us a trip back to Ponsonby, I'll get us a car. So he goes and got us a car, and we all jump in and we get chased to Herne Bay, and dog catches me by the arm, and I end up in prison and court, and the Panthers come down, Will comes down, my mum comes down, the whole shebang lot, and I'm thinking, oh God, you know, I know what's ahead of me. The Panthers come down and they bring David Longy as my lawyer. And David Longy represents me and lays down such a beautiful story that the judge feels sorry for me and lets me off and gives my friend 3 years. If I'd have gone into prison, I'd be a different person. I'd come out full of hate and busting, yeah.
It must have been hard for young Pacific Islanders not to become hostile towards a police force who they believed was systematically racist.
How are you?
Good.
Vince Tui Samoa shared the frustrations of many of those growing up in this environment.
There was no youth club, okay? So where do youth go to? Hey, besides which they call Youth Town now, it used to be known as Boys Town. but they also had laws, and the funny thing about it was the only way that you could get to Boys Town or Youth Town was to catch a bus. Now, looking at the economic situation of a lot of our families, we weren't rich. So you beat the feet. But beating the feet meant that you could be picked up as a vagrant for having no money in your pocket, which the police could use.
In response to what the Panthers perceived as police harassment, they decided to turn the tables on the law and monitor police activities. They set up the Pig Patrol.
What was the Pig Patrol?
Pig Patrol, what it stood for was Police Investigation Group.
Aye.
And all it was us watching them doing their job. And it was our views on what we saw of our people being treated.
See, so that police officer's like just there. What, you just leave that one alone, would you?
Well, we would find out where the paddy wagons were, because where the paddy wagons were was the task force.
Oh, look, we've lost him. See, would I have done a U-turn there? Is that what I was supposed to have done?
Yes.
Oh, man.
Yes.
I would have sucked.
Yes.
By the mid-70s, Pacific Islanders were regular scapegoats for rising unemployment and social problems. The flames of prejudice and racism were fanned for unscrupulous political gain. One of the most telling things I found searching through the archive is Muldoon's 1975 National Party election advertisement.
People said they were nice places to bring up children. But the cities grew alarmingly. People poured in, not just from the country, but from other countries as well.
You had these cartoon characters of curly-haired people, real dark-skinned people, and big lips and big noses.
Then one day, there weren't enough jobs either. The people became angry, and violence broke out, especially among those who had come from other places expecting great things.
And that was leading up to the so-called immigration, the Dawn Raids. Hey, they were blaming the islanders for the misfortunes of the Europeans.
It was Dawn Raids, catch them while they were asleep. Even though there was a majority of overstayers from South Africa and England, they pick on the Tongan and the Samoan overstayers in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So they form a special squad to go out early in the mornings to dawn raid, break down Pacific Island people's doors, demand flashlights in their faces and demand for their identity and passports to make sure that they're legally here and not overstayers.
When they started bringing in the laws about overstays, it was, islanders, we don't need them no more. Strange. Hey, strange. When my father worked the roads, when our people worked in the factories, worked in the laundries, that no other person wanted to do. And who did they blame? The PIs?
They came inside, they found this other chap. And
was the other chap hiding?
No, he wasn't. He was sitting here talking with us. And he asked them about his passport, and he said he hasn't got it handy. So they said whereabouts he lived. So they take him up to Papatoe where he lives.
And they've gone there to try to find his passport.
That's right.
My mum got a phone call. Mum was a social worker. There was a 19-year-old Samoan girl. I think she was 19. But anyway, a young girl. Baby no older than about 2 months. They had snatched her from a house. Okay? All she had, and this is not being crude, but she's had the lava, no female undergarments, and in a holding cell, the baby had a nappy, a T-shirt. And when she asked for milk to feed the baby, the priest just sort of says, there's the milk you can use for, we're giving you for the coffee. So we had to, Mum rung me up, and I had to go back and go get her the things that a female needs. Because 6:30 that morning, she was on the plane back to Samoa.
So we decided to dawn raid the ministers. We gave them the full, outside the house, we had the lights blaring, in our black gears, and loud hail and say, we're members of the Aotearoa Liberation Movement. You have 24 hours to prove that you're rightfully allowed to stay in this country. Fortunate enough, I had a friend who was working for Radio Hauraki at the time, who rang up the minister on air, asking him what was happening, and he said on live radio, how dare these people come at this ungodly hour? And it's exactly what we,
That was the point.
proved. That was the point. And I think it took them 2.5 weeks, and there were no more door raids.
The Panthers' biggest eviction battle was yet to come. In 1976, the government moved to sell Ngāti Whātua land to property developers. Tangata Whenua began an 18-month occupation to try to prevent further land sales. In a show of Pacific solidarity, the Polynesian Panthers joined them.
This place is Crown land. I have the lawful authority and duty to prevent unlawful trespassing or intrusion upon or occupation of this place.
I remember when I was at Bastion Point, and Dad came to one day. Dad said to me, he said, why for you go up there? You're not a Māori, And I said to him, Dad, how would you feel if you lost your land? Because us Tongans get a piece of land. 3 weeks later, he convinced his church group, and they sent up 6 trucks of food.
Alongside the Panthers was MP Hone Harawira, who back then was a member of the Māori political movement Ngā Tamatoa.
So by the time Bastion Point came around, we were really comfortable with each other. Eh?
Yeah.
Will, Tingy, all of the...
Usual suspects.
All usual suspects. Oh, Will, he was a movie star back in those days, eh? Well, certainly Will thought he was.
I was just going to say.
No. He was big, black guy, articulate, good looking, and good sense of humour, but knew what he had to say and the message that he had to say it. So I was impressed, very impressed. I thought that they were very staunch.
Yeah.
They brought a sense of purpose and also a small degree of menace. And the thing I liked about the Panthers was they provided us a connection to a section of the New Zealand community that nobody really gave a shit for.
Yeah.
The Pacific Island community, nobody really gave a damn for, nobody at all.
After 506 days of occupation, Ngā Tamatoa and the Polynesian Panthers stood with Ngāti Whātua as they were dragged off their land by hundreds of police and armed services. Thankfully, much of that land has since been returned to Ngāti Whātua. The Polynesian Panthers were part of a worldwide youth revolution. I'm off to San Francisco, home to the organisation that inspired them, the Black Panther Party. In the 60s, San Francisco was a hotbed of youth radicalism, political protest, and going up against the establishment. It was the birthplace of African-American revolutionary left-wing organisation, the Black Panthers. The Black Panthers were founded by Bobby Seale and Huey P. Newton. They wanted self-determination, an end to discrimination, and to protect African-Americans from police brutality.
Right there?
Yeah.
Good day.
Hello. Kia ora.
How are you?
I'm really well. How are you?
Good.
So good to see
I'd met artist Emery Douglas a year earlier when he was in New Zealand, and he encouraged me to make this documentary. Emery was the Black Panthers Minister of Culture.
I came to a place called the Black House, That's where a lot of cultural activity used to go on. And I seen Bobby had this newspaper where he had designed the logo, and he had typed out the text on a typewriter. And so I told him I could go home and get some of my art materials that may help improve what he was doing.
Sure.
And so they said, okay. And so I went, and it took me about an hour to walk there and back. And when I came back, they were surprised that I came back. But they say, well, he was finished with that, but you seem to be committed, and we're fixing to start this newspaper. And we want you to be the revolutionary artist for the newspaper.
At its height, the Black Panther paper was getting Emery's artwork and their message out to hundreds of thousands of people all around the world. I've asked Emery to take me to the Black Panther archive. I want to know if there was any real relationship between the Black Panthers here and the Polynesian Panthers at home.
Welcome, come on in.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Long time no see.
Finally.
Brother Emery, what's going on? All right. Welcome to the museum. Come on in. All right.
Wow.
This is our home, but we converted it into like a little museum on Black Panther Party history and the history of the 60s and 70s. Now, of the 1960s, this is probably the most popular poster there was. If you didn't have one of these posters, you were not even hip. I mean, seriously, everybody had this is it right here. This is, it cost, I think it might have cost $2 or $3 at that time, but everybody had a Huey in a chair poster. You know?
And tell me, Billy, did you manage to find any articles or anything like that from the Polynesian Panthers that perhaps you might have?
Yes, I did, matter of fact.
Oh, did you? Yeah.
I looked through our archive, and I remember that around 70, 74, that we started making contact, and there was members of the Polynesian Panther Party came over. I think a couple of these issues right here, this particular issue here, Polynesian Panther Party, win respect and support. And this is May 30th.
Is that Amma? I think it is.
1974. And this particular paper here, I think there's other issues here that kind of, that put the spotlight on the Polynesian Panther Party also. Okay, the PPP also organized a police investigation group. They organized a legal first aid, prisoners aid, political education classes. And this particular one talks about the widespread oppression in New Zealand.
Do you fellas even know where New Zealand was back then?
No, I didn't.
No.
I knew it was out there somewhere. Well, see, the thing about it is a party is like the voice of the people, right?
Yeah.
And so when the Polynesian Panther Party started, that only made our voice echo even bigger because it reached more people out in the Pacific, you know? And not only, you know, the policies are what the struggle